With 1 minute to go, race 2 for the Mini 7 Racing Club here at Brands Hatch is good to go. The grid is formed, and after a slightly truncated earlier race, the safety car was deployed, and then an early checkered flag halted proceedings with Aaron Smith taking the Melia win, Ross Billis and the 7s, the 7S victory to Matt Page and Julian Proctor, the Libra class. The race 2 grid is formed and good to go. Formation lap gets underway. One other talking point about the Mini 7 Racing Club this weekend, not just the racing, but what happened in qualifying. Jeff Smith had got the car onto pole position in the qualifying session yesterday, then had a sizable off going through Sheen Curve, did lots of damage to the barrier, lots of damage to the car, and lots of damage to Jeff Smith himself. 3 broken ribs was the last count. Jeff, get well soon. He doesn't do things by half, Jeff Smith. If he's going to have an accident, he has an accident. But I'm sure he'll be back to full strength soon and be as quick as ever. But assuming he's watching this and he hasn't had his nap, Jeff, get well soon. And commiserations on what should have been a good weekend of racing on the Grand Prix circuit. Colin Peacock's red car heads towards us. Behind him on the Mini Melia grid will be Tony LeMay. And the 7s and the 7Ss, which were pretty frantic, as you might anticipate, in the earlier race, all gathering together at the back. Pole position for that combined grid. Jonathan Page for the 7Ss. The 7s headed by Damien Harrington, who's had a victory. Ian Curley led much of the earlier race in the Mini Melias, but ended up second, so he's had 3 second places on the bounce. That, he hopes, is going to change soon as the cars go onto the Grand Prix loop. The 7s and the 7Ss, the 1 litre cars, the 7s slightly more tuned than the 7Ss, will be as entertaining as ever, that is for sure. Aaron Smith then on pole position. Rupert Deeth, double winner this year with him at the front of the grid. It was Rupert Deeth leading the championship in the Mini Melia class coming here this weekend. Kane Astin, who was part of the leading battle in race 1, he's 3rd on the grid, and then Ian Curley 4th ahead of Phil Bullen Brown and Sean King. Ryan Taylor is next. Josh Canning ended up off the road in the earlier race, but he is on the 4th row. Joe Polly next. Now, she got a penalty for edging, I think it was Colin Peacock's car off the road in race 1. So Joe ends up on the 5th row, Colin Peacock alongside. Then it's Steve Ewell, or should be, I think there was a gap where Steve Ewell's car should have been. Antonio LeMay ahead of Elliot Stafford and Paul Cobbing. Then Robert Humphries, Phil Harvey, Julian Proctor, the earlier winner of the Mini Libra class. A gap where Ben Norfolk wasn't. He was in the gravel in the earlier race. And Ian Fraser rounding out the Melia and Libra combined grid. Then the 7s, which by the look of it lost Paul Woodbridge, but has Damien Harrington on pole, Daniel Munro alongside him, then Spencer Wanstall and Ross Billison. Glenn Woodbridge has the redoubtable Stephen Hopper for company. Mini racing would be all the poorer without Stephen, who has been a staunch, stalwart racer for many, many a decade. Jamie Payne next with Graham Davis for company. And then, as I say, Paul Woodbridge missing off the back. But Jonathan Page heads the 7Ss from Oliver Burkitt. Matthew Page, with the earlier win to his credit, has double winner Matthew Ayres alongside him. Then it's Matthew's dad, Giles Page, and Joel Wren ahead of Jack Vanner, who also was in the gravel in race 1. Then George Welch ahead of Bertie Woolard and Patrick McCarthy, Daniel Blaster, Tony Ayres, Nigel Fraser-Kerr, Mal Dickinson, Louis Burkitt and Arnold Duncan round out the grid. 20 minutes will be on the clock, and they're heading back towards Clearways and then to the grid. There'll be a delay after the Melias go before the 7s and the 7Ss go, so you've got sort of 2 independent races going on, and the cars weaving around trying to get some warmth into that Goodyear rubber before they head to the grid. So Aaron Smith heads to the front of the grid. Aaron, who has been 4 times a Mini Melia champion. Bet against him at your peril with him at the front of the grid. Rupert Deeth, another great character. Double winner at Snetterton. And also had a pole position for the 2nd race there. His is the dark-coloured car on the outside of the front row. The sort of day-glow and grey colours carried then by Kane Astin on the inside of the 2nd row. Rupert Deeth, a double champion in Mini Melias. Kane Astin, 1 Mini Melia and 1 Mini 7 title to his credit. And then lining up 4th on the grid, Ian Curley, 1-time British touring car racer, double Mini Melia champion as well. Behind that, you've got the car of Phil Bullen Brown. There at the back of the grid is Arnold Duncan in his 7S class car. Late entry to the weekend, and will be hoping to get himself up through the pecking order as the race goes on. The drivers then will look to the lights in a moment once the back of the 7S grid forms into place. So you've got the Melias and the Libras to go, then a wait, then the 7s, and behind them is a gap, but the 7s and the 7Ss will go at the same time. Questions will be asked later. Are you keeping up? Right, everybody just about, I think, in place. It's a long wait if you're Aaron Smith at the front, but finally the last few cars have arrived. And so we are good to go with the 4th race of the season for the Mini 7 Racing Club. The Goodyear Mini Melia and Mini 7 challenges ready to go. 20 minutes on the clock. Fingers crossed we get through it without too much drama. Lights go red, lights out, blast off. Good getaway by Aaron Smith, who moves across to defend from Rupert Death. Absolute dynamite start by Ian Curley on the outside of the second row, who tries to go all the way around the outside of Death and all the way around the outside of Kane Aston. It comes to naught. Phil Bullen-Brown tries to get up the inside line in number 7, and there, a bad start. Ross Billison's car, I think that was, or was that Daniel Munro? Didn't get off the line. He does so now. It was Daniel Munro, in fairness. Ross Billison leads the 7s. Daniel Munro completely fluffed that. And there's another 7S that has not got away either, stranded on the grid. But the leaders for the Mini Melia race come onto Cooper Straight for the first time. Aaron Smith in the lead, just ahead of Kane Aston. They turn themselves onto the Grand Prix loop for the first time with Ian Curley in 3rd place, slow starting Rupert Death in 4th. And that leading line then trying to accelerate clear of the opposition as they head down towards Hawthorns for the first time. The 7s, the 7Ss, are still pouring their way out of Graham Hill Bend towards Surtees, as side by side for the race lead on the outside line. Kane Aston has a go there at Aaron Smith, can't do it. Ian Curley in 3rd, under attack. Rupert Death in the black car goes to the inside, the outside. Celebrating 60 years of Swift Tune engines. Rupert Death goes then through Westfield, looks for the tighter line to get up the inside of Ian Curley's car. Forget that, says Curley. Sticks out his elbows, and Rupert Death has to slot in behind him. There is the car that is in trouble. I'm afraid to say that out of the race then, Oliver Burkitt, the former Carter, that was the one that didn't get off the grid, and therefore he's pushed into the pit lane as a retirement. Leaders come out of Stirling's down towards Clearway. Sean King going quite nicely in the pale blue car, but he's under attack from Phil Bullen-Brown as they come down towards the right-hand of Clearways. Phil Bullen-Brown on the outside, and a big lose from Josh Canning, who goes around and ends up in the gravel. And oh dear, because that is not that far off the road. The car just suddenly snapped away from him as they came into the braking zone. He was off the road in race 1. And he's done it again in race 2. So in race control, there's an audible groan, and they have to work out how to do this now to get the car out of harm's way. Here come the 7s, then heading towards the yellow flag zone. They're not meant to be overtaking, but they're so close. The drivers hopefully see the flags and the boards and slow. You can see the difference in pace, even though they were staggered grids. The Melia's a long way through before the 7s come by, and the leading 7 at the end of the opening lap is going to be Ross Billison from Damien Harrington. The safety car is on standby. The race leaders turn their way up towards Druids then. So Aaron Smith in the lead of the race, but only just. The 7s and the 7Ss together, including the recovering Daniel Munro there, number 41 after his slow start, trying to make amends. He goes around the outside of Stephen Hopper's blue car, number 38, Stephen Hopper, the blue car with the white roof on the inside line. Daniel Munro goes wide, so he can't find a way by. Has a look up the inside, but Stephen Hopper able to keep him at bay as they come onto Cooper Straight then. As I say, safety car's on standby, but it's not yet been deployed. Here are the 7s, which was a battle being led by Ross Billison at the start of the lap. Damien Harrington, Spencer Wanstall, and then Glenn Woodbridge behind. Glenn off the road in race 1, ended up bouncing through a gravel bed that did for the car, but he's not only got it back for race 2, but it's going nicely. As also is Aaron Smith, the race leader, and there the yellow light flashes as they come down towards Clearway, so no overtaking permitted at the end of this second lap of 20 minutes of racing. Safety car now deployed. So we do go safety car. That will hit the track. All the gaps will disappear, and as the cars then work their way out of Clearways, you've got to get everybody in a line, really, so there's enough track clearance for the marshals to go to work. They don't want cars streaming past when they're in the incident zone. You want the line to go through and then have lots of time for the marshals to work before the cars come through on the next lap. So Luke Caudle, the clerk of the course, calls for the safety car. Field comes over the line. Aaron Smith is the leading Mini Melia driver. Ian Fraser, who's had a win this year, is the leading Libra driver from Julian Proctor, the man behind him there. The leading 7 is that of Ross Billison, and the leading 7S is Jonathan Page, the business analyst ahead of Matthew Ayres. Right, lots has been happening over the first 2 laps before we got that safety car deployment, as Aaron Smith leads the pack then coming out of Graham Hill Bend. Weaving around to try and keep the warmth in those Goodyear tyres. And up there towards Surtees they will turn. 15 minutes still on the clock. Safety car conditions here at Brands Hatch. This was the first start. Good getaway by Aaron Smith. 1 or 2 with a lot of wheel spin. Dropping into the pack. Ian Curley on the outside in the white car. The KAD-tuned car to the outside of Rupert Death, who lost out to Kane Astin. Phil Bull and Brown's orange car had a look. Now, this was Daniel Munro's dreadful start on the outside of the front row, and lots of wheel spin also. Rather did for Damien Harrington's turquoise car from the Mini 7 pole position. So that meant Ross Billison led from Spencer Wanstall's red car. Damien Harrington recovering for third, and Glenn Woodbridge in the orange car with the gold roof for fourth in class as they rounded Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. And then this was the demise of Josh Canning. Turns into the corner and the back just suddenly breaks away. Off into the gravel he goes, and that's the reason that the safety car is out. So it was this good battle between Aaron Smith and Kane Astin for the lead before they were all neutralised. Rupert Death having to go at Ian Curley for third place as well. Ian Curley just getting himself up to second before we went to safety car conditions. So Ian Curley, in his kind of natural environment, bearing in mind he's been second in every race so far this season, he would dearly love to remind people he's still a race winner. There's Colin Peacock going through in the distinctive all-red car. Colin, the commercial mastermind of the Mini 7 Racing Club, one of a number of people that does a huge amount of work for the Mini 7 Racing Club to not only get sponsorship, but also get good dates for the drivers to go to venues they want to race at, to safeguard the future, bearing in mind that it's a long time since Minis of this shape were built, but the 7S is still catering for drivers with limited budgets and ability. The Mini Melia, now effectively a shape that one can buy purely as a race car, and Mini racing remains as popular as ever. And the Mini 7 Racing Club continues to be a great club for its members. It doesn't just deliver great racing, it has a great social scene as well, and the Mini 7 Racing Club awards every year a riotous affair which involves much mickey-taking of drivers and much ale, just as motor racing should be. Over the line, then, 3 laps in the book. Aaron Smith it is up front from Ian Curley and Kane Astin. And if you're really cheeky as Ross Billison in your 7, you might just want to have a go at Robert Humphrey's Mini Melia on the restart of this race. Lights are still on the safety car, but the gravel bed, I think, is pretty much clear now of Josh Canning's car over at Clark Curve. So all being well, we might be able to go back racing this time around. Ian Fraser, 12th overall, currently the man that leads in the Mini Libra class for Mini Melia style cars, but with a few more modifications. Julian Proctor is the man behind him. Julian Proctor, a road surfacing operative, and call him a pothole filler, and he'll have you by the throat, I promise you. He's definitely not a pothole filler. I don't think anybody is, actually, given the number of potholes that exist these days. Up towards Druids, they turn, and Aaron Smith continues to then be the race leader, but hopefully will be confronted with a green flag, not a yellow, at the end of the lap. The road is clear over at Clearways, and we await news for the safety car's withdrawal. There is Rupert Death turning his way through, the property developer in the Mini Spares entered car, and Aaron Smith, it is the Land Rover technician, kartist, mini racer, and multiple champion, the man from Larkfield in the lead. Ian Curley then behind him, and the field sprinting its way up through Sheen Curve, so the safety car hopefully can be in this time. There was no need to do another lap because the road is clear, the officials are back on post, and the lights are out, so it comes through Stirling's. The safety car will head for the pit lane, and it's up to Aaron Smith to try to break away. We're going to have just about 11 minutes or so of the race remaining as they come towards Clearways. You can see Aaron Smith weaving around, getting a bit of warmth into the tyres, and then as he accelerates through Clark Curve, he'll pull the pin. We're back racing then here at Brands Hatch on the Grand Prix circuit. The Mini 7 Racing Club's Goodyear, Mini Melia and Mini 7 challenges back underway. Absolutely nose to tail. Aaron Smith and Ian Curley for the race lead. Curley goes to the outside line, but Aaron Smith will brake as late as he possibly can. Hurls the car into paddock. Third, it's Kane Astin. Fourth is Rupert Death. And again, they've stolen a bit of a march over the rest of them on the resumption of the race. In 5th place, it is Sean King's pale blue car. Phil Bull and Brown is in 6th. Ahead them as they round Druids of Ryan Taylor. Behind him, you've got Tony LeMay. Colin Peacock is 9th. Joe Polly is 10th. And that leading quartet quarrels its way out of the left of Graham Hill Bend once again. So Aaron Smith leads the way. What's going on in the 7s? Ross Billison ahead of the red car of Spencer Wanstall. Damien Harrington is in 3rd as they drop down the hill. So Ross Billison, who has been a double winner this season, once at Snetterton, once earlier on in the day. Here he leads, but in Mini 7 racing, nothing is guaranteed. And up the inside for second place goes Damien Harrington, who was on pole position in the class, and he's up to second place in the race as well. Glenn Woodbridge has dropped off the back a little bit as the Melias go into Hawthorns with Ian Curley now in the lead. Out wide goes Aaron Smith, to the inside line Kane Astin. In fourth place Rupert Death tries to work out which little bit of real estate might be mini sized for him to have a go. Out of Westfield they come, drop down Dingle Dell up towards Sheen Curve. Curley leads then from Aaron Smith, tiny gap back to Kane Astin third, Rupert Death fourth, Sean King is fifth, Phil Bull and Brown sixth, Ryan Taylor seventh, and they're all in a line. Before you get Tony LeMay, next up, number 69. Another stalwart racer is Tony LeMay. He's in his early 70s now, the garage owner. Barely has missed a season of racing, it feels like, in his 8th overall as the leading quartet dives into Clark Curve. Big slide from Kane Astin, but he corrects it. He's got Rupert Death right up behind him. This is where you want to try to get a toe and then make that move diving up towards Paddock Hill Bend. Rupert Death may have gone early because he's on the outside line, so he's having to cut through the air himself rather than let Kane Astin's car do it, but he's going to brake late on the outside line. Kane Astin brakes even later. The car quivers, it gets up on two wheels, it whacks the curb and dances through Paddock. Up the inside line goes Rupert Death. That should be good enough for third place if he stands on the brakes and gets it into Druids okay, which he does. So Death up to third. He started second on the grid, so he's recovering after not a great getaway. And Ian Curley, whisper it, is trying to edge away from the opposition. That's not allowed in mini racing. Here is the Kane Astin curb clip, and that unsettles the car. Wheel lifting him in is nothing rare, but then he had to sort out a slide. There was understeer, there was two wheeling, there was the curb whack, there was quite a lot going on. But he got away with all of that, even though Rupert Death pounced on the inside line. Rupert Death now has the fastest lap of the race, and he's in the wheel tracks of Aaron Smith for second, and easily breezes by, gets a toe there. So Rupert Death goes through, up in the second spot. But Aaron Smith won't like that, but they've got to work together now, otherwise Ian Curley is going to get away. He's already broken away by 3 or 4 lengths as they turn now through that right at Westfield. We've got 8 minutes and change on the clock. So that's what's going on in Amelia's. In the 7S's, the class being led by Jonathan Page at the start of the lap. Behind him, Matt Ayres and Matt Page are side by side. Matt Ayres is 7.01, 7.09 is Matt Page. And they're on the limit as they go then through the right of Hawthorns. Just up the road ahead is Glenn Woodbridge. There he is, number 39. That's one of the 7s. He is 4th in class, is Glenn, going after Spencer Wanstall. And Matt Page clips the curb. Another of the multitudinous Swift-Tune engine cars. And the 7S's then head up the hill through Sheen Curve, go right. Now back to the Mini-Melias. Rupert Death lines up Ian Curley for a go for the race lead. Rupert Death has done the fastest lap of the race, and right there with him is Aaron Smith. So Death tries the outside line and fails. Smith tries to get the undercut for the inside up towards Druids. Is he going to be able to do it? No, of course he's not. Rupert Death moves across. Ian Curley hangs on to the race lead. Brackets somehow, closed brackets, and behind him it is just Death second. Smith third, way out wide over the curb goes Kane Astin. He's going to fight back and take third place away as they drop down towards that left at Graham Hill Bend. And after all of that, Ian Curley has managed to swap them all aside. Rupert Death, having done the fastest lap right there behind him, he needs to stay close and then try to get the toe all the way now from Surtees down to Hawthorns. Again, wheels lifted as they come onto the Grand Prix loop. Ian Curley leads the way. Just Rupert Death in second place. You've got 4 drivers here who are absolute mini experts. In the 7S category, a little bit deep into Druids goes Jonathan Page. Matt Ayres fights back in 7.01, and right up behind him is Matt Page, 7.09. So those 3 are together. And in the 7 category, Ross Billison is just ahead of Damien Harrington, who is just ahead of Spencer Wanstall, with Glenn Woodbridge saying, wait for me, the former Superstock racer in 4th place. So Ross Billison goes by, the electrician. Certainly sparked up nicely off the grid, and with 12, 13 or so years of racing minis, very, very experienced now. But Damien Harrington in the turquoise car is going to have a go back at him then as they head almost side by side now down towards Hawthorns. Damien Harrington, the man from Highgate, right round the outside, goes through into the lead of the category, in the lead of the 7s, and a change for the 7S's, and a change for the Melias. Rupert Death around the front of Ian Curley. He goes by. We've got Matt Ayres into the lead of the 7S category. Rupert Death leads the Melias. Here they come with 6 minutes on the clock, up towards the line, absolutely nose to tail. Death leads, but in so doing gives a toe to Ian Curley as they come across the line. Death covers off the inside line. Kane Astin is there in 3rd as they dive into the right-hander now. Still 4th is Aaron Smith, but don't rule him out. There's a bit of a waiting game here because you don't want to necessarily lead onto the last lap because you give a toe to everybody else. So Smith on the back of Astin, Curley on the back of Deeth. Phil Bullen-Brown is almost there in 5th, ahead of Sean King, who's got his mirrors full of Ryan Taylor. And Deeth being given the hurry up by Ian Curley. Comes onto Cooper Straight, 5.5 minutes on the clock. Aaron Smith then in 4th, all over the back of Kane Astin. Works out where there might be a gap. It ain't at Surtees, that is for sure. And Rupert Deeth looking for 3 wins out of 4 races. Powers his way onto the Grand Prix part of the circuit. It was Rupert Deeth leading by 2 points from Ian Curley in the championship, coming to Brands Hatch this weekend. And Ian Curley right there on the back of Deeth. And so is Astin on the back of Curley. Aaron Smith, surprisingly, has fallen away by length, but I'm sure he's going to be able to make that up as he throws the car into Hawthorns and comes out the other side a little bit nearer to that battle pack ahead of him. It's still 4 for the lead in the Mini-Melias then. The 7 still being headed by the Harrington, Billison, Wanstall trio, where now Damien Harrington is ahead from Ross Billison, who's going to get mugged if he's not careful by Spencer Wanstall's red car on the outside line. Ross Billison flings number 2 up the inside and just tries to stay ahead coming off the corner. But while they're battling, Damien Harrington has done something unheard of and he's broken away quite decisively there. Glenn Woodbridge in 4th in the 7s is getting a little bit nearer all the time. And down they go now to that right-hander of Hawthorns once again. Spencer Wanstall on the outside line. Nice move if it pays off. Ross Billison with the shorter line on the inside is just going to be able to stand his ground as they make the run up towards Westfield. Spencer hasn't had a win this year, but not for the want of trying as they swing now through the right of Westfield. Spencer Wanstall had a 3rd and a 2nd at Snetterton. By rights, he should have won the first race. 3-2-1 progression. It didn't quite work for him. He throws the car sideways at Sheen Curve. Glenn Woodbridge, 39, is getting closer and closer all the time. And this is your 7S battle. Matt Ayres just ahead at the moment of Jonathan Page, and Matt Page next up. The Mini Libra cars go underneath the bridge. Side by side then in the 7s. That was Glenn Woodbridge coming up on the outside of Spencer Wanstall on the attack. Didn't work for him. And that's actually enabled Ross Billison now to get away and possibly go after Damien Harrington once again with 3.5 minutes on the clock. And these leading quartet, the lead cars within the Mini-Melia part of the race, where you've got Rupert Deeth, Ian Curley, Kane Astin and Aaron Smith, the 4 usual suspects. Take an order, shuffle it. To the outside line goes Curley. Deeth fends him off for now. Curley tries to get the inside line coming off the corner. Astin tries to squeeze up the inside of both and also block Aaron Smith at the same time. Rupert Deeth is still ahead. Somehow clips the curb, turns right, bounces his way now through that right of Westfield. Aaron Smith still looking menacing in 3rd. As does Kane Astin in the green and, the turquoise and Dayglow car just up the road ahead. Into Stirling's they come. Deeth versus Curley nose to tail. And Aaron Smith at the tail of that queue is okay in as much as he doesn't have to worry about Phil Bullen-Brown behind him because that 2.5 margin is not for coming down. So, big squeal of tyres as Rupert Deeth flings the car into Clark Curve. Got away with that. He's got time for 2 more laps, I would offer you, as he comes up towards the timing line. The grey and yellow livery of Kane Astin 3rd, the white car of Ian Curley on the attack, the black car of Deeth did lead, but this is Curley's chance to go back through on the inside line. He has done it, so Ian Curley retakes the lead as they go into paddock. And now Kane Astin on the attack as well on the inside line, coming up towards Druids. Aaron Smith waiting for the ideal moment to strike as well as Deeth goes to the outside line. He's gone maybe too deep. That opens the door for Astin, but Kane not quite able to get alongside Rupert, dropping downhill. Aaron Smith still 4th, just waiting to see when the ideal gap presents itself. The car looks quick enough and it led early on. Now, in the 7Ss, Jonathan Page on the outside of Matt Ayres in the rather greyer car. The 7s up the road still Harrington versus Ross Billison. And this is the 7S class battle with, back on the inside line, 710 of John Page back up front. And I think we're going to get both Pages together here because Matt Page will be up into 2nd at the expense of Matt Ayres as they come across the line. Ayres on the outside of the grey car, Page on the inside. There's one troubled Graham Davis, black Mini 7 there that they negotiate going up towards paddock. And in the Motley Mini, Phil Harvey, that's in the Libra class. Damien Harrington and Ross Billison are together for the lead of the 7s as they turn into Druids. And that is Matt Page in 709, fighting for honours in the 7Ss. He was 2nd over the line. He's back down to 3rd behind Matt Ayres. Here are the leading Mini-Melias. They're going to start the last lap this time. They've got traffic up the road. It's Curley ahead of Astin. Deeth has dropped to 3rd then, with Aaron Smith in 4th place. And here they come, underneath the bridge, down towards Clark Curve. The 7s and the 7Ss trying to get out of the way. Ian Curley works out which way to go. The inside line he commits to. Rupert Deeth goes to the outside. That's a roll of the dice. He squeezes past the back marker, but he leaves the door open for Aaron Smith as they come through now to start the last lap of the race then. Up towards Paddock Hill Bend they go. Smith to the inside. Now, whatever strategy you had, it's all bets off. Smith absolutely on the attack up the inside of Deeth. Hurls the car to the inside line. And as they head up the hill towards Druids then, overlapping side by side. Smith's about to go third, is he? Ian Curley leads, looking for his first win of the season. Deeth gets crowded out wide. Aaron Smith is briefly ahead of him, but Rupert Deeth has the inside line for Graham Hill Band and will go back through as they drop down the hill. And while they've squabbled, the top two have just broken away a little bit. Smith again on the inside line up towards Surtees, but can't quite get up the inside of Deeth as they turn into the corner. Kane Astin then on the back of Ian Curley. This is the chance he wants then. Get into the slipstream and then dive out at Hawthorns, but Ian Curley you can pretty much guarantee will cover off the inside line. He ain't going to make it easy on the outside, and here comes Kane Astin. He thinks about the inside. Ian Curley moves across, as he will, behind Deeth and Smith are closing a little bit. So Kane Astin all over the back of Ian Curley. They're closing on the tail of one of the back markers as well. Kane third in the earlier race, first time he's been on the podium. And off the road there, you can see that's Jonathan Page. Now he was fighting for honours within the 7S class, so that's going to turn that on its head. We'll come back to the 7S battle in due course. The Mini Melias are going to get to the line first. Curley versus Astin. It's going to be a drag race to the line with Rupert Deeth and Aaron Smith behind them. So down to clearways they come. Kane Astin goes to the outside line. They're going to dive through the traffic. There are battered cars. There are slow cars. There's Ian Curley in the lead, but he's going to go wide. He blocks off Kane Astin, or does he? Kane to the inside. Rupert Deeth on the outside line. It's going to be a virtual dead heat for second, but Ian Curley's just done it, and here comes Aaron Smith on the inside line. It's a win for Ian Curley and a tremendous finish. Great racing for the Mini Melias. Rupert Deeth is given second, 81 thousandths behind. Kane Astin third. Fourth was Aaron Smith. Right, that's one battle. Here's the other. This is the 7s. Ross Billison has got himself back ahead of Damien Harrington, and Spencer Wanstall comes up to have a go as well on the outside line. Ross Billison ahead. You've got the 7S's behind, where Matt Ayres is in the lead, just from Matt Page, but there's still half a lap to go. Ross Billison getting away slightly. Damien Harrington had a massive advantage 3 or 4 laps ago, but it's all disappeared, and he's lost the class lead. There are the 7S's with the car of Matt Ayres just ahead as they come out of Sheen Curve up towards Stirling's. Matt Page all over the back of him with the car of Jonathan Page in the gravel at Stirling's then, hence the yellow flag. Here they come down towards clearways, and Ross Billison looked as though he may have just done enough to be able to hang on in there to win the 7th fight. Goes right through Clark Curve up towards the checkered flag, and that then is going to be a third victory of the season for Ross Billison. Second place in the 7s to Damien Harrington, third to Spencer Wanstall, and behind them it is going to be a win in the 7S's to Matt Ayres, who comes across the line for his third out of 4 races this year. Win number 3 out of the 4 rounds of the championship held, and that was mini racing at its best. Every class had a great battle in it. Good racing, close racing, and clean racing as well. Ian Curley, Rupert Deeth, Kane Astin, the top 3 in the Mini Melias. The Mini Libra class, we didn't really touch on very much, but that was Ian Fraser winning from Julian Proctor. Phil Harvey was third. In the 7s, Ross Billison wins from Damien Harrington and Spencer Wanstall. And in the 7S class, Matt Ayres from Matt Page. And third goes the way of Joel Wren. Brilliant racing in the Mini 7 Racing Club's Goodyear Mini 7 Mini Melia Challenges here at Brands Hatch. Perfect way to round out a great race weekend at Brands Hatch. So the cars make their way down the pit lane, and the teams jump off the pit wall. Let's just go through the long result of the 4 classes. Ian Curley, the race winner, and wins the Melia class, of course, from Rupert Deeth. Kane Astin third, Aaron Smith next from Phil Bullen Brown, Sean King 6th, Ryan Taylor 7th, Colin Peacock 8th. In 9th place, it was Elliot Stafford, and 10th, Joe Polly. Then you get to the winning Mini Libra car, Ian Fraser, class winner from Julian Proctor. 13th overall, it was Paul Cobbing, back to Amelia ahead of a Libra car. That was Phil Harvey, 14th. Then the 7s, Ross Billison, the winner from Damien Harrington and Spencer Wanstall. Next up, in 18th overall, the 7S winner, Matt Ayres from Matt Page, and then Damien Munro in his 7 after his bad start. Joel Wren was the 3rd of the Mini 7S cars, ahead of another of the 7Ss, Jack Vanner. Then he had Giles Page ahead of Bertie Woolard. Stephen Hopper, 25th overall in his 7, ahead of Jamie Payne, another of the 7 category, just ahead then of George Welch and Louis Burkitt, with Tony LeMay sadly not getting to the end, and 1 or 2 others being a lap down. As you can see, we lost Glenn Woodbridge, also late race. We lost Jonathan Page, I think, into the gravel. So for 1 or 2, it's been a troublesome race, and a race win for Ian Curley in the Mini Melias. Let's have a look at the highlights then of a very lively Mini Melia Mini 7 combined grid here at Brands Hatch. Good start in the Mini Melias for race 2 by Aaron Smith. He was the one that charged into the lead. Ian Curley didn't make that good a start because he tried to go around the outside and actually got shuffled back to 4th. The Mini 7s, well, for Daniel Munro, he had an even worse getaway. The car barely moved and lots of wheel spin, rather delayed pole sitter Damien Harrington. Everybody did get away eventually from that 7 group as Phil Bullen-Brown and Sean King squabbled, and behind them Josh Canning spun at the end of the opening lap, plonked himself in the gravel, triggered a safety car, and then we went racing again. Aaron Smith up front, and although he looked strong, he eventually got shuffled down to 4th, and oddly, never quite able to recover from that. Kane Astin was on the attack on the inside, on the outside, Ian Curley. Curley got the lead, and then he had to defend like crazy. Rupert Death also working his way back into the mix. Kane Astin bouncing over the curb, Paddock running out wide. That opened the door to Rupert Death. Whereas in the 7S category, it was all going on, and Stephen Hopper had a big scare going up towards Druids. He managed to survive that and avoided grass and curb and everything to recover. Rupert Death made his attack for the race lead, round the outside of Ian Curley. The car getting sideways as he flung it across the front of Curley's white car. Kane Astin trying to get a tow. Aaron Smith falling back slightly in 4th place. And as they went on to the last lap, Ian Curley was just ahead. Kane Astin again looking for a gap as they wriggle their way out of paddock, and he made that move heading up the hill. In the 7s, there was drama. Glenn Woodbridge being accosted by Jonathan Page, and both of them ending up off the road. Big disappointment as through the traffic up to the checkered flag they came. Ian Curley just ahead of Kane Astin. Rupert Death made his move on the outside line, and Ian Curley prevailed as the race winner by 81 thousandths of a second from Rupert Death. Kane Astin 3rd over the line. So, wonderful racing as ever from the Mini 7 Racing Club. Ian Curley, Ian Fraser, Ross Billison and Matt Ayres, the 4 class winners here at Brands Hatch. And the story will continue for the remainder of the season in the Goodyear Mini Melia and Mini 7 championships. But great racing here at Brands Hatch this weekend. Just what you expect, really, from good old-fashioned Mini racing. Long may it continue.